There are now more than 1 million security cameras watching Britain. Tonight, caught on video, the dramatic, the suspicious, the extraordinary. Good evening and welcome to I Spy. You probably don't even notice them, but the astonishing truth is that each one of us is filmed by security cameras at least 6 times a day. Tonight we report on the CCTV revolution and we bring you the real-life stories and dramas caught on camera. There's nowhere to hide. We've the inside story of how shoplifters are being taped in the act. We report on neighbours at war with dramatic video evidence of the rifle shot that ended in court. Cameras that see everything, but can you see them? A tiny camera like this watches police accused of taking bribes. But first we examine the impact of surveillance cameras on the streets of Britain. We first saw them in banks and building societies, then shops fitted cameras. Now it's whole cities, towns, hospitals, schools, even private homes. By the year 2000, it's estimated there'll be nearly 2 million cameras on the streets of Britain, probably more. That's an incredible 20 cameras for every square mile. Here in Guildford, 22 new cameras start watching over the town from today. The aim is simple, to wage war on crime. But can the camera win? The streets of Britain. Here crime is a daily problem. But surveillance cameras don't just watch. They're now playing a vital role preventing crime in nearly 100 towns and cities. King's Lynn was one of the first towns to install CCTV back in 1987. It looks peaceful enough, but the cameras here have been responsible for 400 arrests. Car crime has been virtually wiped out.
There are a number of known faces, of course. If we do spot them, we're straight onto the radio and warn all the retailers. We find a character we want to follow through the town. We've picked him up on the Saturday marketplace. We now switch to 18, and there he is. Depends, of course, where he goes from that car park. We could pick him up on one of at least another 2 cameras. It's virtually impossible if you do commit an offence in the town to leave the town centre without going past a camera position somewhere. People are beginning to learn the lesson, don't commit crime in King's Lynn.
It's nearly 2 a.m. in Glasgow and 2 men are spotted acting suspiciously. They're tracked by a camera operator for several minutes before they smash their way into the Blue Lagoon fish and chip shop. But police arrive less than 2 minutes later. The men are arrested and later convicted of the break-in. These 2 young men have already stolen the white car. Now they're trying to steal another. But these car thieves are being watched.
You can see the hazard lights flashing and they're furiously and very beaverishly trying to disengage the alarm system on the car now. They hear something coming or they see something coming and they're very quickly disturbed.
Too late, they run for it and they're caught.
And our response time to that particular incident was 53 seconds.
24-hour surveillance is now capturing a whole range of real-life dramas. Police battle with a suspect. Firefighters tackle a blazing car in Brentwood. The seaside resort of Newquay is holding the official opening of its CCTV system next week, but it's already caught this reveller taking home a picnic table for his garden. It's a long haul and is only part of the way home before the police arrive. They make him take it all the way back, and after a night in the cells, he was allowed to go with a caution. This gentleman has clearly had too much to drink. It's 7:30 in the evening, but he thinks this clothes shop in Glasgow should still be open. He's attracting plenty of attention, and as the crowd gathers, he demonstrates how to deal with a locked door, with catastrophic results. It's 3 a.m. at Newcastle Central Railway Station. These men run off with £5,000 worth of electrical goods they've stolen from a goods wagon. Police were there in minutes. 2 men were later convicted. Back in King's Lynn, a night on the town for these two. The one who kicked at the car is Stefan Nichols.
We're just very drunk and just messing around, not hurting anyone at all.
But Mr. Nichols and his friend were being watched.
It's pretty intimidating, really, because you're not doing anything, but you're like getting hounded, followed and watched.
Even watched eating some food from a rubbish bin.
If there'd been a telephone call about that incident, people would have reported 2 people misbehaving, and there would have been 2 arrests. But what the cameras very clearly showed was that his friend was trying to stop him misbehaving, and he, of course, wasn't arrested, wasn't allowed to go on his way.
In Guildford, more than £500,000 has been spent installing a state-of-the-art surveillance system.
What this system allows us to do is to be able to look at the situation, assess it very, very quickly, and send the appropriate level and the appropriate type of response for that incident.
The value of what we're talking about with closed-circuit television systems here is the fact that it's live, it's immediate, it's instant.
Now it's your chance to turn detective. On I Spy, we'll also be asking for your help to fight crime. Can you help police find this man filmed in a car park by a surveillance camera in Swansea, South Wales? Here he is in the passenger seat, playing with what turns out to be a toy gun. He then gets out and breaks into the car on the left. He smashes the window, opens the door, and steals the car radio. The police were called, and although the driver was caught and charged with various offences, his accomplice escaped. If you know him, phone Crime Stoppers free on 0800 555 111. That's 0800 555 111. We spent more than £200 million on buying home video cameras last year. They're mostly bought to capture routine, everyday events. But now it seems they have a new use, as a weapon in disputes between neighbours at war.
There he is. Bloody big coward. Gotcha. May you rot in hell, you miserable...
I just wanted to give him a big bang on his head. Half kill him, really.
The first attacks on my van were carried out about 3 months after I moved in.
Across the country, neighbours are at war. Last year, there were well over 160,000 complaints. With the police hard-pressed to cope, there's a growing feeling little can be done about bad neighbours.
I made a complaint to the police. Said I thought one of our allotment holders was vandalising my garden. They said I had to produce some evidence, so I decided to do just that.
For months, someone had been digging up his potatoes, chopping his cauliflowers, and now slashing his courgettes.
I lost 91 plants in total over the 6-day period.
He borrowed a friend's camcorder and hid in a shed, yards from his allotment.
By the time I'd got onto the perch, he was here.
Here he goes. Mr. Fothergill, there he is, chopping him up.
I just sat there, watched him chop my garden up. I was absolutely livid. Yeah, I was so mad with temper that I couldn't really keep the camera still.
Run away.
Mr. Boyce's feelings were recorded on his own camera.
You bloody had it, Mr. Fothergill.
It was the latest episode in a long-running dispute between the 2 men.
Could kill you, you bugger.
Armed with this video, Mr. Boyce presented his evidence to the police. Fothergill was convicted of criminal damage and forced to pay £28 compensation for the courgettes.
Mr. Fothergill, saboteur extraordinaire.
More sinister still is the threat of physical violence from a neighbour. An American man was determined to catch his tormentors, so Californian Bill Kiley set up a home video camera in his lounge. As he waters his lawn, the camera records the moment his neighbour launches a vicious attack. This footage was instrumental in his attacker's arrest and conviction. Back on Britain's suburban battleground, feuding neighbours have each other in their sights.
I installed a small camera just below the guttering on the front of the house.
Mr. Lynan claims he was the target of a very unneighbourly vendetta.
Most of the attacks were carried out on my vehicles. I've also had paint daubed over my front door.
So began a 24-hour surveillance, week in, week out. His neighbour, David Kimberley, objected to the camera. That's Mr. Kimberley on the right.
He accused me of invading his privacy and demanded that I had the camera removed.
Mr. Lynan left the camera where it was, so Mr. Kimberley took the law into his own hands. Here he is, carrying a powerful air rifle by his side. He begins to size up his target.
I was just watching the morning news and I heard a noise outside.
He checked his video recorder and saw his neighbour taking aim with his rifle.
It hit just off-centre of the lens. The camera is no longer usable.
Kimberley was fined £100 for criminal damage. And with the huge increase in video cameras, more and more neighbours are set to push the record button to settle disputes. Security cameras are meant to fight crime, but here's a chance to see, for once, how a camera caught a moment of pure joy. 16-year-old Mark Aldred from Gosport bought a lottery scratch card at his local newsagent and won £50,000.
I was just like scratching it off, and like I saw 250s and I thought, nah, nothing's going to happen here, so I just scratched it off. And, like, just checked it to see if I did win anything, and there were just the three of them, but I just said, yeah, won 50 grand.
And here's Mark celebrating the moment when he won a fortune. Join us after the break and see what happens when the theft of a box of chocolates ends in chaos. We also take a look at how the world's smallest cameras outsmart the criminals.
The area where he thinks his stock is safe, a bit like a squirrel hoarding his nuts, really.
A man covers his friend while he breaks a cabinet lock, and together they steal a bundle of video games. But they're not as invisible as they think.
I don't think a lot of people out there actually realise just, you know, how good technology is now. We sometimes bring people down into the control room, and all the way down from the point of arrest to the point they get into the actual detention room. I didn't do it, you're wrong. You know, I've done nothing wrong. And at that stage, what we would normally do is show them the videotape.
These two visit an electrical store to choose a new stereo. But they don't take it yet. They come back after hours, straight through the wall. They were both caught and given lengthy jail sentences.
Cameras now are at such a high speed and with full rotation allows us to follow anybody whatsoever throughout the store, whichever speed they choose to either walk or run at, which going back some years we didn't have that technology, and that has made obviously a lot great help to all of us. Some shoplifters will blatantly steal goods right from underneath the camera dome, not actually believing that they're actually being seen.
And for her too, there's no escape. Within moments of leaving the store, she's arrested. There are 3 surveillance cameras in this room. One's up here, one's over there, and the other is about this size, and it's hidden. It could be anywhere. A tiny pinhole in a picture frame, and behind it is a camera just like this. Criminals know they can be identified by security cameras. Not very flattering. That's why small covert cameras are now increasingly deployed. A gang of youths prepare to steal from a shop. One keeps a lookout while another pulls down the security camera.
The point comes where visible cameras or overt cameras cease to be that useful. People can see them, they know they exist, and therefore they know how to take them out.
Police are still after this man, caught by the camera he was in the process of stealing.
Covert or discrete cameras can take over and actually detect the crime.
This video was taken by an investigative television crew who hid a small camera in the car bonnet. The car only had a minor engine fault. However, what the camera recorded was a mechanic who got to work with a crowbar and lump hammer. He wrenched the radiator off its mountings. The bill was over £1,000.
Nowadays, the lenses on cameras are the size of a pinhead, 1.5 millimetres wide. The lens looks through there and you can get a perfect view through a pinhole.
Police investigating corruption in Australia hid a tiny camera under the dashboard of a car. The senior officer on the right was seen allegedly receiving a bribe. Then a massage parlour owner gets into the car and palms cash to another officer. A judicial inquiry is now taking place.
The camera itself is so small, it can even fit inside a matchbox. They can go virtually anywhere. We put them inside clocks, looking through the hole where the little light used to be. We put them inside mobile phones, looking through the talking holes. Computer speakers, they work as speakers, and the camera looks through one of the holes in the mesh. And even without a pinhole, our cameras are able to look through mirrors like this. They quite literally see through the mirror from behind.
In this reconstruction, a man is about to commit a robbery. He knows there's a security camera inside the shop, but believes wearing a balaclava will prevent his identity being recorded for the police. However, the camera hidden behind the mirror captures the moment he lets his guard slip.
You're far more likely to catch a criminal using a covert camera or a discrete camera than with a visible camera.
This is the world's smallest video camera.
Literally a camera on a chip. At the centre of this microchip, you can see a tiny little glass bead lens, and that converts this microchip into a video camera. The system is not actually designed as a covert camera. It's primarily designed to work with burglar alarm systems. When a burglar breaks into the premises, he will trigger the alarm detector, which in turn triggers the camera.
Shortly after the camera was installed in a Canadian store, it captured this armed robbery. The camera was triggered by the cashier pressing a button when the robbers demanded money from the till. These pictures were transmitted live to an operator at a monitoring station.
She was able to report that there was 2 white males of average height and one apparently armed with a gun. The police, of course, were able to respond immediately, and within 2 hours they were banged up in jail.
Once again, it's your chance to help police solve a crime caught on video. A tiny camera was hidden in a confectionery machine at a London Underground station to catch this man. He's not after the chocolate, but the cash box. After several raids last year, he's believed to have netted over £2,000, but despite the close-up pictures, he's never been caught. If you recognise him, please call Crime Stoppers free on 0800 555 111. That's 0800 555 111. That's nearly all for this first edition of I Spy, but I hope you'll join me again soon for more real-life stories caught on camera. We'll be revealing how armed police in the front line use video to convict dangerous criminals. The Have-A-Go heroes. We report on extraordinary acts of courage by ordinary people. Inside the world of car crime, cameras reveal what really happens when your car becomes a target. And before we leave you, this clip from a rail track safety video. It's a reminder to all motorists how not to approach a level crossing. Good night.
And join Yorkshire at 8:30 next.